Hello there, my name's Neil David and I'm the host of Eurograps Express, the podcast exclusively dedicated to the wrestling of Europe. If it's wrestling and it happens in Europe and it's good, we talk about it. Whether it's Rev Pro, Progress, WXW, Passion Pro, Pro Wrestling Chaos, Pro Wrestling North, we don't care, we talk about them all. If it's good and it's exciting, I want to share it with you. We're on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Check us out on the feed. Check us out on Twitter at EuroGrapsEXP. And join us for chat about European wrestling and a little bit of chat about cheese. Hopefully see you there.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to a special Nights of Nitro, that once in a while Days of Thunder trip over to Monday nights. It's me, your host, Dave Ryan, and I'm joined, as always, by Stagger Lee Malone. Lee, how are you? A Monday night we nearly missed.
A Monday night that we did miss and had to go back to, but that's a story for later on in the show.
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you, pal?
I'm alright. I mean, I've watched a lot of WCW this week, so, it remains to be seen how okay I am in an existential sense.
I mean, look, we've watched so much WCW now that people consider us experts, and, I mean, that's not a badge I want to wear proudly.
Yeah. Things are going well, though. I had some time to do some retail therapy during my time off. I picked up a few books. I'm doing a thing now where... I'm trying to collect a particular set of books at the moment. So when I grew up, one of the thankfully still unproblematic writers I enjoyed as a teenager was Terry Pratchett, the late great Terry Pratchett.
Okay.
And I read a lot of his books out of the library. There was a lot of them in the local library here in Newbridge when I was growing up. And our English class used to go to, once a month, we go to the library, pick a book and do a book report kind of deal on it.
Okay.
And so I got into Terry Pratchett that way, and then I borrowed some of his books from my friend who was my neighbour. And I had a couple of them, but they've gotten lost or tattered over the years. And then a couple of years ago, they started putting out these really nice fucking hardback editions of his books. And they're all different. Each one is a different color. They've got intricately designed covers on them. I'm kind of I'm trying to rationalize it myself by saying that if I buy these hardbacks, because the hardbacks will obviously endure the test of time more than a paperback will, that it's something that I could pass on to a hypothetical child of mine years from now. That's what I use to try and justify why I'm paying more than a paperback for it. The downside of setting out on this is, one, if I start a collection, I have to finish it. This is something about me.
Yeah, okay, you have
I have to complete it. I have to complete it. And Terry Pratchett was nothing if not prolific. He wrote, I believe it's 42 Discworld books.
Oh, good lord.
I am just over the halfway mark. I'm a couple of months. I'm maybe I had 4 already, maybe 5, and I have spent since Christmas getting a few a month, so I'm just past the halfway point. The thing that's speeding me up on this journey is that they have stopped publishing the hardbacks.
Okay.
So they started doing them a couple of years ago, and now there's new ones coming out and they're paperback. I'm like, no, these they look trash. Sorry.
Okay.
A lot of paperback art nowadays in books, absolute fucking goddamn trash. I don't care. So I'm now in a race against time. to try and get all of these, but I crossed the halfway mark this week. I've gone to the extent where I have a spreadsheet to make sure, because I'm somebody that it's happened to me a couple of times with Blu-rays in the past, where I see a sale on Blu-rays and I end up buying something I already own.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah. I think I have 3 copies of The Secret Life of Pets because I had bought one because my cousins were coming over and I was babysitting them.
Okay.
And then I thought, at some stage, I didn't remember how I saw the movie, but I was like, oh, Emma would like this. So I got her a copy. Forgot we already had one. And then she did the same and bought me one as a stocking filler at Christmas. God. So I have 3 copies of that.
I mean, so it's a good movie.
It's decent, yeah. It's not like, if there was going to be a film, I'd gladly have 3 copies of it. It wouldn't necessarily be that. But, yeah. Are there any kind of because we kind of, as we get into our 30s, like you and I are both in our, I'm entering my mid-30s. You're about to exit them.
Thanks, Dave.
But it's a period of our life where you kind of declutter a lot.
Do
you know what I mean? Because you your late 20s, early 30s, you oftentimes will move in with a partner. In your case, you started a family. There's less space for your shit, basically.
Oh yeah.
But is there anything you still keep your collection of, or that you collect, or is this just a type of brain parasite? I'm the only host that has it?
No. Look. There's one thing I have that I've always kept, and I have a suitcase, like a 10-kilo suitcase of jerseys that I had as a teenager/child. Now they're not, they're in awful shape, a lot of them, and because they were worn a lot. But I that's one thing I have, so that's in one of the wardrobes. Connor has actually worn a couple of them. Connor takes them out every now and again and goes through them. And there's a couple that are still in relatively okay shape. But I have that. One thing I wish I did keep, and it was in my parents' attic for many, many years, and I think probably just pre-pandemic, my dad cleared out the attic and didn't tell us.
Oh no.
All my copies of Power Slam and FSM.
Oh no.
Now, I didn't have every copy of each, and there was a couple of WoWs in there and stuff, but I didn't have every copy, so it wasn't like it was pristinely kept around like that. It was literally 2 or 3 black sacks. But I had a lot of stuff, and I think pretty sure they all bit the dust. One thing I did salvage was my 2 wrestling buddies. I have a Hulk Hogan and a Ultimate Warrior wrestling buddy. So I've had them since I was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So they've maintained their and Connor's room.
I feel like that's a thing where I know Finn Martin put out a couple of the collected editions, but he did the best issues of X year through X year, and he did a couple of volumes of just the cover interviews. Yeah. I feel like there would be kind of like the way the Observer does the yearbook. I feel like there's a market for a Power Slam yearbook. I know, listening to a big shout out to a friend of the show, Barry Murphy, his podcast, the Chair Shot podcast, Paul from that podcast, who's a fellow Kildare man. He I think off eBay, he got just a box of Power Slam magazines and has been reading them every month, and it just I'm just oh fuck, because
I would love nothing more than to just be at home one day and just be able to go pick up an old Power Slam and flick through for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I'd because the thing I loved, so I would have been collecting it not as long as you. I think maybe, definitely into the TNA era, maybe 2002, 3 through 2010, maybe. I don't know. That feels because I know 2009, 2010 kind of time I was really falling off, and I had gone online. Fully online in 2007, so I wasn't buying it every month after that. But anyway, my favorite thing to do for a long time was go through the section where they talk about what everybody was arguing about on message boards. And I would love to see the stuff. I know my F4W board username was mentioned at one stage in an issue, and it was a real claim to fame. But they would do this section. For those who didn't read Power Slam, which is a UK-based wrestling magazine, they would do a section where it was like, what are people bitching about on the internet? So they would take like Death Valley Driver posts, boards posts, I think, as well.
I think there was boards. I think there was UKFF. There was
the Torch Forum and the Observer.
Yeah.
The Observer Forum, such as they were, but the main one was the F4W Forum. Pre-merger, because I think the merger was like 2008 with the Observer. I think the Observer had boards, but they just weren't like used. They weren't proper message boards. But yeah, I'd love to thumb through and just see the dumb shit people were arguing about, because like, much as I do think the level of discourse in people talking online about wrestling has degraded significantly over the years, I do think weirdly as well, like, people got mad a lot more back then at the simplest of things, but I think they were just much more eloquent about explaining it. You know, that kind of a way.
There was a lot more posters back in the day. Now it's just hot takes. It's a totally different culture, and you know,
bad faith and people not like actually backing up.
I mean,
like, you know, explaining what they're saying.
People will talk about clips that they haven't even watched and stuff like that. You know, that's just
couldn't be me.
Just a real endemic of dumb shit.
Yeah, well, I took those books, by the way, off the shelf to show you. It doesn't work in the podcast medium, but
that's a nice cover. I'm not a Terry Pratchett guy, but that's some pretty cool shit.
They put a lot of effort into it, so like that's my latest thing.
So you don't want to be trawling eBay in like a year's time looking to fucking source these books.
Yeah. I'm very hopeful. There's still enough new ones in different places. I'm trying not to get them on Amazon. Like they have them all there. And like,
oh, do they? Okay.
If I really start to run out, I could cash in with Bezos. But I'm gonna try. I've been trying to get them through Irish bookshops as much as possible. To be that guy. But yeah. That's where we're at. Lee, before we get into, like, it's one of those where you can tell like we're dreading, because of the week it is. We'll talk about that in a minute, that we're trying not to talk about this show, which is funny because there are about 4,000 things that happen on this show, so we really don't have the time to be faffing about. But let's do a little more faffing about and tell people what they're missing out on by not subscribing to alargemanappears.com, the Days of Thunder Patreon.
Oh, you're missing out on so much. I mean, just last week, we had a very special WrestleMania Skip Scramble where we reviewed and discussed 9 of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. We went for non-main events, so kind of show stealers that weren't the main event. Matches including Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, up as far as Brock Lesnar and Goldberg at WrestleMania 33. Just a great selection of matches. We had a great time. I think the show went nearly 2 hours, did it?
Yeah, just a little shy of 2 hours.
But also, on top of that, I had a solo audio come out over the weekend. And then this coming month, we will have another 2 Patreon exclusive shows. The first one will be a special Days of Thunder at the Movies, where we will be going kind of a different route. We're changing things up on the Patreon a bit this year. We're trying a few different new things. And this month's Days of Thunder at the Movies will be a sports documentary selection. So yes. we have not quite finalised our picks, but when we do, a poll will go up on the Patreon. And we will each have a choice, and then we will select one of our listeners or one of the patrons' choices, and we will put it to a poll.
Yeah. So by the time you listen to this, most likely, there will be a post up on our page asking for suggestions about sports documentaries, wrestling or non-wrestling. The one thing I will say, if you're a subscriber and you're listening to this now, if it's a documentary, a very popular documentary that is about to come out imminently in 1999, we've got it covered.
Yes.
It's coming up in a couple of weeks on the free feed. Don't worry. But if you don't want to waste your pick, do pick something else.
Yeah. Also, don't give us any multi-part documentaries. Just like, you know.
Yeah. I love Ken Burns, but Ken Burns baseball, that's right out. Sorry. I love it, but that's like...
Again,
18, 20 hours.
Again, The Last Dance. Really fun documentary series. But it's like 10 episodes. We're not doing that.
Yeah. A feature-length documentary.
Yes.
Is what we'll do.
And then later on in the month, for our second Patreon show of the month, we will most likely have a new episode of Draft and Drafts.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So my working plan is to have a NXT TakeOver draft. So I haven't quite done out the list. I don't know how far into the TakeOver era I'm going to go, but I'm going to go right from NXT Arrival, which I believe was the first one, right up through the TakeOver. I like through all the named NXTs into the TakeOver era.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far I'm going to go in. I'll keep an eye on the kind of list, and if it's getting ridiculous, I'll cut it off.
What about that one? Could we do the cut off, the one where it fucking went downhill after? Was it the Portland one? There was one that was like, I think it was this either the first or second Gargano Ciampa, where after that kind of everyone agrees, right, we're definitely, I don't know when the peak was, but we're definitely past it now. That might be a good...
Was it not in NXT New York or something? Like it was some fucking...
That might have been the match. We'll look it up. We'll let you know before we do the show.
There will be a cut-off at some point where I'm just like, okay, this is ridiculous. And yeah, so that's what's coming up. You'll also have a solo Patreon episode this month.
I will, and you just posted one this past week.
So plenty going on.
It's all kicking off over at patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod.
The other thing we will have is a Dynasty pre-show.
We will. So check it out. We actually should send the captain the link to our YouTube page. If you go on to the Days of Thunder Discord channel on the Voices of Wrestling Discord, you can find the links in our bio to get yourself to the Discord. In the events tab on the Voices of Wrestling Discord, up at some stage will pop the link and the time for that coming up at the end of the month. I think the pre-show, the most recent couple we did, have proven quite popular. So we shall roll on ahead. We are not doing one for WrestleMania. I just can't be arsed. Like, it might be on in the background this weekend, but I just can't be arsed.
Can't pretend to be interested. Just can't.
No. Also, I actually think this is weird. I think this marks a year since your brief hiatus, because I think the first thing I had to grab cover for was the Mania preview, and I had to drag poor Mark Robinson on first.
Oh God, yeah, probably, yeah.
Who did not give a bollocks. But yeah, look, you can get 3 premium podcasts per month for €5 over at alargemanappears.com, patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod. You'd be a fool to miss out, wouldn't you? Speaking of fools, we're fucking fools. So let's get into this show. Basically, guys, what happened was we sat down to watch Thunder this week. And I think we've spoken a couple of times before that we have a master list of episodes. So that we don't miss a significant moment in the rest of WCW history. Now, we're always open to additions to that list within reason. I think we explained recently there was a couple of people trying to get us to do a few more Nights of Nitros. And we were explaining that we really want to not do it that often. Like, this is our first one in 6 months.
Is it that long? Yeah, okay.
Real time 6 months, yeah. It's the last one we did was Raw as Jericho.
Okay.
So I kind of the way we were kind of trying to explain it was like it has to go past a certain level of historical significance. So I think the one that was suggested to us was to do the Brett Benoit Owen tribute match.
Yes,
Nitro, and like that is one match that's kind of anachronistic to the rest of Nitro at that time. It's not significant to the timeline. It's a great match, but it's not significant to the timeline. And I was fully aware as well. We've now got 2 back-to-back Nights of Nitros. We're covering this Nitro and the following Nitro. So I do want to be a bit sparing with things. But we sat down to watch Thunder, and something we keep forgetting to do lately is checking that master list to make sure we've got episodes in the right sequence. And I got to a video package on Thunder, and it showed me something that happened on Nitro. and I immediately remembered that this was a Nitro we could not miss. Because, Lee, contrary to what the Observer said last week when we read it...
See, that's what threw me off. We literally just talked about this.
Yeah, because I said to you, this is this Nitro. Yeah. And you literally said, like, normally you'd be like, oh, is it? But, like, you were fully steadfast in that, no, it's not. And then you moved from no, it's not to do we have to? And then eventually admitted defeat. So, what we had heard on the last Observer was that Russo and Ferrara had started working in WCW. They were going to control the finishes at Havoc and then start the following Monday. Somewhere in between the publication date of that Observer last week and this Monday, October, is it 15th?
18th, I think.
18th.
Yeah.
October 18th. Shit just fucking hit the fan in a big way. And we'll dig into it on Thunder if Dave has said anything about why. But this, in fact, is the first Russo-Ferrara written Nitro. And it would only take you, about 5 minutes to figure that out at best. Leah, I kind of can't believe it that we're here.
I mean, look, that tweet you put out on X, Twitter, whatever the fuck it's called, kind of summed it up. It's like, he's here. And now this is what everyone thought we wouldn't get to. And it's also what everyone was waiting for us to get to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's surreal and also a little bit worrying. Like, this is the era everybody talks about, but nobody seems to have watched.
Yeah. I think everybody has watched the clips of the big things.
The wrestle crap stuff. Yeah.
And everybody's watched a couple of the key... I think a lot of people have watched the Reset Nitro.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people have watched the Russo's Revenge War Games 2000 episode of Nitro.
Yes.
I think people have watched It's the Wall, Brother, Hey Wall. But in terms of week to week, like I'm not saying we're the first podcast that are
No.
Not by any stretch. But I think that there's going to be a lot of people, ourselves included, that are going to be surprised by how much of this shit happens over a concentrated period of time. Like, even on this show, I was shocked that there are 3 or 4 incredibly memorable Russo era moments on the first fucking show.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not quite at the point of saying we owe Kevin Nash an apology, right? Because I do maintain the theory we have that things were heading in this direction for a lot longer than people gave it credit for at the time. I think that's been a big learning thing for us in 99.
Oh, the water was on that fucking ship already.
That said, it is distinctly obvious who is writing this show now. Like, there is nobody with a signature on wrestling television like Vince Russo.
You said there it takes you about 5 minutes. I didn't want to watch the show.
You really fought me on this.
And you had started it before me, and I think you made it like an hour and 20 minutes into the runtime. And you said, I'm tapping out, and I can't wait for you to get into it.
Yeah.
Within
voting words.
Within the first 6 minutes, I think I'd sent you a couple of messages.
Yeah.
And I had to pause the episode 6 minutes in. Yeah. Because I couldn't believe how much had happened in those 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And you said it there. There is nothing more distinct than the feel of a Vince Russo episode of wrestling television. You like this man has lied for 20 years about what happened with this company.
25 years now.
25
years since this. Yeah.
Like, you cannot watch the opening of this Nitro compared to the week previous and not know, oh shit, like, this has totally changed.
As Mike Tenay once famously said, oh shit, it's Vince Russo.
Yeah. Shout out to the TNA boys. You've got to be kidding me, Garrett and Liam.
Who sent that to us immediately when we tweeted about this week.
Um,
Can I say as well, you going through the 7 stages of grief in my DMs here, where I wrote, the start of Nitro is fucking hilarious, and Lee immediately writes back, oh no. And then I wrote, my next 3 messages, holy shit, the second match, this man is unbelievable. Then, oh my god, all caps. Then, after the Goldberg promo, wait till you see, I can't believe we nearly missed this. And you immediately shot in with, okay, so what if I just didn't watch this show?
I can't underestimate just how much I didn't want to watch this show.
I wrote, genuinely, there was just 6 back-to-back backstage segments. And you wrote, nope, I'm not doing it. You can't make me.
Joe, what's funny? I think that happened at least twice on the show where there was just back-to-back segments. Anyway, let's start on this show, Dave, because...
Okay, so this was Nitro Edition 215, coming to you from... 213, coming to you from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 18th of October, 1999. This was getting a 3.3 rating, so it was still a full 2 ratings points ahead of Thunder on TBS at this point. You would kill for a 3.3 now.
I mean,
kill for it.
Nothing outside of NBA or NFL gets anything like 3.3 these days.
Yeah. God, right. So, we're already hitting a classic Russo trope straight away. Now, it is something that WCW did do anyway, going back to like even I think early Clash of the Champions had this, but we had repeated limos arriving on this show.
Limos.
And like one thing I will say about this Russoism, like he does beat it to death, but I do think you should portray your wrestlers as very financially successful people. Do you know what I mean? It should look like that this is NBA levels of like, if you've made it to WCW, you fucking made it. So I won't give out too much, but it is funny how much he beats you over the head with it.
You say that, but then Sid gets out in that suit.
There's a couple of interesting facts on this show. Is like, who is the first wrestler seen on screen in the Vince Russo era? Sid Vicious. In, like you said, a very ill-fitting suit. And I don't know if it is truly ill-fitting. It could be that it's ill-fitting. It could be that you actually can't find a suit in the dimensions that Sid Vicious is. Or, like, number 3, it's just that your brain actually can't accept Sid in a suit. So no matter if it's a finely tailored suit, your brain still be like, no, that's not right.
Yeah, it could be any of those 3, to be fair.
It's like an ingrown toenail of the mind just looking at it. It also feels weird, like something that Nitro hadn't been doing that much is like pretty much they do the cold open and then go to the graphic. Like it was a source of comedy to us on some of these nights of Nitros, how long we were waiting to see the opening video for Nitro, but they just hit it straight away. And I really, much as I don't mind this Nitro theme, I do hate this Nitro video with like the Nitro girls dancing in cyberspace
in front of the WCW space logo.
Yeah, all those Nitro girls, who by the way are like off TV at the moment because they're beefing with Kimberly.
Well, they're all going to be brought back very gradually, as we'll find out.
Yeah. The building as well, like until about an hour into the show, they were shooting this building in a way that made it look real fucking small. Thankfully, it was a hot crowd because like you would not have known by a lot of the angles. There was like one angle they would shoot from the ramp down where it looked good and it looked big and it looked full. But like anytime the camera was pointed at or near the stage, it looked like a tiny arena, or that it was an arena that had been literally cut in half with tarp. So they didn't do themselves a lot of favors there. Now, the other interesting fact about this that I'd say is lost to the annals of time is like, what was the first wrestling match of the Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara either? And it would have taken me a million guesses to get Evan Courageous versus Juventud Guerrera.
It's interesting that the first wrestler out on a Vince Russo Nitro was a Mexican wrestler, considering what he would go on to say.
But it's also funny that, like, well, what he has just said.
Oh, you had just said, sorry.
Last week.
You just said, yeah, sorry.
So the fact that it was a cruiserweight match in general, considering how little a shit he'd give about the division, how little a shit he'd give about luchadors. But when you think about those two wrestlers, I think they are wrestlers that would get significant television time under Russo, because we're not that far away from Evan Courageous's big push. We also look, Hoovy is going to be fucking all over, particularly Thunder, for most of the rest of the run of that show. As I kind of noted, Courageous is slowly morphing into boy band Evan Courageous.
He now has the baggy pants.
He has the baggy khakis. He has the backwards red cap. Yeah, Fred Durst style. So he's getting there. And we had heard, again, in the Observer last week, that the boy band gimmick is being floated. I think he's doing it on...
I think they're doing it on Saturday night.
He was doing it on the Indies, and they are teasing it on Saturday night, I think, is what we read. They go outside, and this is another thing of the Vince Russo era, is like Vince Russo, one of the things that people will always say about him, and it's the thing that Brian Alvarez has always, like, talked about, is like, there was a man that's second only to Vince McMahon in how much he hated being involved in wrestling, because he tried to make wrestling about anything but wrestling. So the amount of matches, like, if you did a drinking game where it was like take a drink every time a match spills outside for a brawl, you would quite simply be dead on this one episode of Nitro. Big Hoovy sucks chance, which I'm sure Vince Russo enjoyed. Then we get the moment. So we get about a minute of wrestling, and then we get the moment where it's like the Vince Russo era has arrived. Because out walks Bret Hart. In the middle of this match.
You say out walks Bret Hart. We don't see him until he's on the ring apron.
Now, something funnily, and this was a creepy YouTube algorithm moment, that it got recommended to me, the Brian and Vinny retro show where they recap this Nitro.
Oh.
And I listened to the first 5 minutes of it. And a little tidbit that I had forgotten from Death of WCW that Brian talked about on that show that I need to bring up here is that, did you notice the faces on Courageous and Hoovy? They sold really well how annoyed they were about, like, Bret coming out. Do you know why that was?
Because they didn't know he was coming out.
They did not know he was coming out. No one knew. I don't think the ref knew. The two guys definitely didn't know that Bret was coming out here.
The one thing I did note was that the three guys, the ref included, just lingered in the background because, and I wrote,
they didn't know what to do.
They had no clue what to do.
They were frozen on live television. They were thrown, like, it was segment 1, and we're working the boys. Not letting them know what's happening. Massively confuses everybody. Bret immediately starts cutting an insider promo.
Yep, told he can't have promo time, Dave, so he just came out during a match.
Yeah, they had no time for him, so he was going to make his own. He mentions the WWF, something that Vince Russo would be obsessed with, taking shots at the WWF, but I will say, again, in that case, he's not the first WCW booker who is obsessed with taking shots at WWF. Bischoff was just as bad, and it drove him insane.
Well, now Bischoff just takes shots from the WWF.
He said he left the WWF for one reason, to fight Hogan and win the title. And I'm like, that's not why you left the WWF, but okay. So he says politics tell him the match will never happen. Now, we will return to that line at the end of this segment, because that is quite significant, right? So he says politics tell him this match will never happen. Sting then comes out with some sort of I don't know what, he's cut his hair. It's weird.
I think he looks great.
I mean, he looks like he's going to the bridge club, mate.
No, get out of it.
No, it's not quite a blue rinse, but like this kind of, he's cut it short at the end, and it's kind of like, it's like this, I don't know, it's made his head into a sphere. I don't really like it that much. He's clearly, by the way, as well, Sting is in don't give a shit mode.
Yeah, like, because he no longer wants to be a heel, that's why.
He doesn't want to be a heel, and Lord knows he's probably already sniffed out this fucking spoofer that's booking him now. He says that no one cares Bret got screwed, because everyone in the business gets screwed. Boy, ain't that the fucking truth, Steve Stinger. He says, if you can take your mind off Hogan for one night, I'll give you a shot at the world title tonight. So the match is set. Again, another classic WCW thing. They give away a massive... I know we've done Brett and Sting before, but we haven't done Brett and Sting in a World Championship program, but they give you about an hour's notice, maybe an hour and a half.
An hour and a half, because it's top of the second hour.
Yeah. Good Lord. Now,
sorry, top of the third hour, sorry.
Before we move to the next segment, we have to talk about how announcers, they cut to Tony and Bobby, who flat out just say there is a new creative team, Vince Russo and Ed Ferreira. Now, they have said it. They did say it on Nitro when they signed the contract 2 weeks ago.
That's what I was just going to say. They say 2 weeks ago we mentioned that Vince Russo and Ed Ferreira had left the WWF and were coming here. There is a new creative team. Why then over the next 6 weeks do we get the powers that be?
Yeah. But also, why are you saying there's a creative team? Why are you exposing the business like this? Because we know you don't mean the championship committee, because they're called the championship committee. You are flat out saying they are writing this show. It is fake.
It's so fucking ridiculous.
Segment one. Mm-hmm. If you didn't know, even if they had bleeped out Russo and Ferreira, right, you would know straight away it was him, because two of the next things Tony Schiavone says is, we have no idea what's going to happen tonight. And number two, one of the matches for tonight is a New York evening gown match.
Yes, it is.
Now, let's go back to this Hogan line for a second. Because you pointed out we're double dummies. Because the famous Russo-Hogan beef starts in earnest at Halloween Havoc.
It does.
This has slipped our mind.
Yes, it had.
We will talk about that more at the time and in the observers that follow. However, what we wanted to draw everyone's attention to on this show is the way in which Hulk Hogan and those in his periphery are treated on this show. The only time Hulk Hogan is ever mentioned by name on this show is when Bret Hart calls him a politician.
Yes. And now the commentators say his name a couple of times during the Sting Bret match. But other than that, he is not mentioned.
Even though he is one of the main characters in this promotion now.
The de facto number one contender.
Yeah. He is part of the main angle in the company. One of the two main angles in the company. I guess if you want to say Goldberg Sid is the main one, I won't disagree with you. The other thing is to note the distinct lack of Hogan allies, with one exception on this show. And the one who's on it is made to look like a fucking prick. So we will talk about his nephew is on later.
Yes, he is, yes.
But everybody else that is a known Hogan ally, because I know there's a lot of outsiders on this, but Clever Nash, as we had noted in our Observer feature, is distancing himself from... We were talking about how he's a guy who, when Hogan was around, he was all buddy-buddy with Hogan, but when Hogan's not around, he's telling people how all the bad shit that was going on during his reign is Hogan's fault.
Oh, yeah. Look, there's no bigger politician than Kevin Nash.
Yeah. So we then get a lot of to the back, as it would become known on TNA programming, but we go to the back, and Sid is advised by his legal team, because that's who he got out of his limo with 3 lawyers who are the worst looking lawyers I've ever seen in my life. He's being told by his legal team, is it Larry that approaches him to talk?
Tenay.
So they have Larry, Tenay, and is there a third person backstage? They have a lot of roving reporters on this show. Gino. Yeah, Gene's backstage as well.
I don't know if Gene's backstage at any point, but he's definitely on the show.
He is. No, he is, because at one point he sniffs the NyQuil.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he is backstage. Yeah. He's backstage reading a script, Dave. That's right.
Yes, reading a script for the show.
Yes.
So Sid is advised by his legal team not to comment on the situation. We will get back very quickly to the legal team. Then we get Goldberg getting out of a limo. Then we get a third successive backstage segment, which is Sid back with the legal team. And I think maybe the funniest thing Vince Russo has ever done is have the intellectual Sid Vicious have to explain his own contract to his team of expensive lawyers.
And then explain what his lawyers do. He's like, so you're the contract expert. And you're the legal expert.
Yeah. Now, for our next match, this is much more on tone with Vince Russo.
Mm-hmm.
If you had told me this was the first match of the Russo era, I'd go, yes. Cruiserweight title match, the Disco Inferno versus Vampiro.
What's a cruiserweight title match?
That's what Cage Match has it as, a cruiserweight title match, yes.
Oh, fuck, okay.
Now, we know, anyway, because Disco's his boy, but we also know from The Observer that these were two of the guys that were being planned to be pushed.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things about Lash LaRue is Lash LaRue, this I didn't know, but I found out from Alvarez, is he was such a blue chipper in the power plant, and like it's funny because he's so sloppy and green still at this stage, but I think maybe compared to the absolute shit that was coming out of the power plant, he must have been the first one since Goldberg that showed any promise, because apparently they put him for a 22-year-old. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but they put him on a massive deal for a 22-year-old. So the kind of the reasoning behind why he's all over TV now is because they're like, well, we fucking got him on a contract, like we got to just start using him.
Jesus Christ.
So that's why he's all over this, and like I feel bad for the poor guy because he keeps getting promo time, and on this show he gets commentary time as well, and like he's not ready to talk on camera.
No, God,
like, he's not ready.
He leans way too heavily into the Cajun thing.
Yeah,
like,
he does like, to my memory, and it'll be interesting to see if my childhood memory holds up. He does get a lot more comfortable, to my recollection, on camera.
From the small bits I saw at the time, I do remember when MIA is a team that himself and Hugh Morris were like the best talkers in the group.
Yeah.
Now, not a great group, but
no,
you know, they were the most comfortable.
Look, G.I. Bro was in that group.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, Disco, like, Lash is not great on commentary, but thankfully this is Vince Russo, so the match is about 2 minutes long.
It's not even 2 minutes though, is it?
No. Disco's not happy with Lash coming out. It is about a minute. Yeah, according to my notes here, because Vampiro has the heat. He's just, and oh my God, you want to talk about, like, I just wonder, did Vince Russo come in and fire all the producers, because also none of these matches make sense all of a sudden, because it's just Vampiro putting a whooping on Disco for a solid minute,
which makes sense.
He misses, that makes sense. He misses a twisting cannonball senton, and Disco just gets up, hits him with the last dance, and wins.
Yep.
And then, in terms of, we're going to say the word psychology a lot during this era. And a thing about psychology, Vince Russo's psychology, or a lack thereof, that really bothers me here, is that this match ends with the heel hitting his finish and winning. And then the babyface sneak attacking him, booting him, and the babyface young kid gets booed.
Yep.
Nope.
Just killing the guy right from the get-go.
Yeah. We get a brief segment of Larry backstage with Goldberg. I really don't want to dwell on this because of what's next.
This irritated me. We literally had, like, it was 3 minutes. Like, there was a break, so 3 to 4 minutes previously, Goldberg had arrived in his street clothes.
Yeah.
And then we go back to him with Larry, and he's in his full gear.
Do you think it's like all his clothes are tearaway, like he's in the Hot Cops?
I mean, I hope so.
I hope all wrestlers are like that. It would make life a lot easier for them, wouldn't it?
Well, go on. What's next? What's next, Dave? Because I have it down, but tell me what's next.
Fucking hell, man. I didn't realise this was the first one.
Neither did I.
I didn't realise this was the first one.
Now, let's premise it by saying Dustin Rhodes, really,
he's one of my favourite wrestlers of all time.
Really good wrestler. Really good. That man had issues in the 90s.
He's a guy where our friend Jamesy was talking about, like, is it arguable that Dustin Rhodes has had the most different number, like the most different decades in which he's had a 4-star plus match. Because you can argue he probably didn't have one in the 2000s, but 2020s, 2010s, 90s, 80s, and 2020s.
80s,
because his one with Punk.
80s may be questionable because he was really young then. But yeah, 90s. There has to be something in the 2000s. It has to be one. Like, that man had a lot of issues. He had a lot of
definitely not Black Rain.
He had a lot of drug issues. I'll say that.
Yeah,
but I mean, he had the Booker T tag team in the 2000s.
Yeah.
He had a substantial WWF run in the 2000s.
Yeah, his second run, yeah.
So, I mean...
2 or 3 years.
There had to be something there.
Yeah.
But anyway...
But, like, in terms of longevity as well, like, what a lengthy career. We love him. Big fans.
Yes. Just a great wrestler. But like I said, the man had serious problems in the late 90s and early 2000s. But none of that excuses this gimmick.
This is the first sighting of 7.
The first sighting because the cops were called.
Now, the phrase magical paedophile gets thrown around a lot these days.
Now, Dave, of all podcasters,
of all magical paedophiles,
of all podcasting duos out there in 2024,
yeah.
If there's a pair of guys that have had the unfortunate circumstances to be around many aunts in a wrestling environment.
Yeah, we attended many Brit Rest shows in the last 10 years.
You know, and then we see this, and it's just like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah. It was like they went, do you know what? We love Nightmare on Elm Street, but the subtext of Freddy Krueger being a paedophile, it's too subtle. It's too subtle.
See, do you know what I was thinking? I was trying to remember, like, what year did The Sixth Sense come out?
It would have been around shortly before this. This is the second time The Sixth Sense has come up on this podcast in the last few months. Yeah, it came out this year.
So that
1999.
That was always what I thought.
Oh, actually, you might be because it came out 2 months ago.
See, that was what I always thought was supposed to be.
But it's not, because like there's nobody in a creepy pedo mask of themselves floating outside.
I know, but that's what I took.
If fucking Bruce Willis was in a Bruce Willis mask floating outside a window going, ooh, got a diddle you. Like...
Talking about all the evil in the world, and he's touching hands with a child, like, yeah.
This has to be seen to be believed. Like, it really does.
There's nobody listening to this that hasn't seen it.
Yeah, it's Shockmaster levels of legendary, like.
And, like, it has to be, like, only a couple of weeks until he does that promo.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Anyway, do you want me to give you, like, I mean, it'll be old news by the time the show is up, but do you want to give me to give you a nice little bit of good news from 2024 wrestling?
I do.
AEW signed Tiger Style Pro from Twitter to do their video packages.
Love it. That's great news.
So his first one just aired, and Mike Mansory said, "Welcome to the team, Tiger Style Pro."
That's great. That's a great hire.
Yeah, he did like the Battle of Wills video package for tonight, which looks class. That put a little smile on my face when we were talking about the spooky paedophile. That got me through that segment, learning that.
Tiger Style Pro has a real unique, like, his own sense of style when it comes to his video packages, so that's a really good hire.
Next up, back into the mire of shite on this show, Tenay wants to ask Medusa about the evening gown match. And we already have. This is the 9th segment of the show, inexplicably. In about 20 minutes, we've had 9 segments. And 9 segments in, 20 minutes into the first Vince Russo show, we have our first angle where somebody's mad at the writers. Because she says she doesn't give a shit. She's not doing it. She quits. Now, she does end up doing the match. So it makes no sense that she said she quits. She's done.
Yeah, in a way she does the match, but yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah. We get an in-ring segment with Gino. It's the Nitro Girl Search semi-final and the first appearance on the podcast and in WCW of Stacy Keibler, who would go on to, I think, in spite of how she was always portrayed as nothing but something for the dads to look at, went on to tremendous success, made a lot of money in the business, and got out with her sanity in one piece.
Yeah.
More fucking power to that woman.
And
I
like
have a lot of respect for her.
And it's funny that like this is the first time we see her, and we get like a little highlights package from, is it Maui or wherever they are doing the Nitro search or the Nitro Girl search.
Wherever Jean wanted to have a holiday that year.
And like she says in her little video that she's a wrestling fan.
Yeah, she is. I did know that about her, yeah.
And I find it funny that of all the Diva Search, Nitro Girls, or whatever that got into the business, she was the one that got in, did her time, and got the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like she did,
her and Spike Dudley.
Yeah, she did her Dancing with the Stars. I went, oh, there's stuff outside of here for me. See ya.
She's never come back either, has she? She's never done any of the Rumble.
I mean,
you know, she's never done. Once she was out, she stayed. I know she was never really a wrestler.
I mean, Dave, once you get out and you start fucking going out with George Clooney, do you really want to go back to the Predator?
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't want to do much else after I got out with John Clooney or George Clooney. I fucking peaked.
I believe she's happily married and all that now, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She got a whole rake of kids and stuff.
Does she even have kids? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she does. Yeah. So like, fair play.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, I felt bad for the other woman who's in the semi-finals with her, because in terms of just charisma, Stacey just wipes the floor with her. Just wipes the floor. She's so telegenic. She looks so natural and comfortable on TV already in this appearance, and the poor other girl looks very uncomfortable with it.
And I have to say, even the brief little bits of their dancing, you can just see like Stacey's a natural.
Yeah, and she was a dancer. Now, I will say, some very white girl at the disco dance moves were going on, so I find it... I found it stretch credibility that she actually was a dancer, but you know, I guess it's 1999. It's a different time. Now, because this is a segment in the ring, it must be interrupted, and out comes Buff Bagwell. I also notice, so the level of classiness of this program is about to hit the toilet.
Yes,
people should know this. But a harbinger of that is the first crowd sign I noticed all night, and that is one that simply says Rusty Trombone.
No, it was 2 signs.
2 signs, Rusty and Trombone,
yes,
was it?
It was, yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is where we find out, and I didn't know this, that Vince Russo, in one of the 4,000 interviews he had given, was talking about a chosen one coming to save WCW. And Buff said, oh, another Russo trope. Buff starts off this interview with, don't you read the internet? People need to know.
First of all,
you go.
Before Buff even gets to the ring, we get the infamous Tony Schiavone line of, is this on your format? That will not be the last time you hear that.
I don't think it's even the last time tonight, to be honest.
But yes, so if I recall correctly, Russo had been given interviews, and he had really big up Buff. Buff is going to be one of my guys. Like, he's going to be their guy. And that's where the chosen one thing came from. So, Buff coming out and doing I'm the chosen one. Haven't you been reading the internet? It's all over the internet. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, in 1999...
So, something that needs to be explained to people is that it's hard to understand now in 2024. But in 1999, the percentage of wrestling fans that were online is minuscule.
Like, if it was 5% of the people watching Nitro and Raw every week, that's probably over-egging it slightly.
Yeah. The problem with Vince Russo's perspective, there was a lot of them. A lot of problems with it. But one of them was that because he was one of the internet fans, he thought everyone was.
And look, we all go through that time in our life where we think everything we see online, everybody else reads and believes, and like we all become that person for a little bit until we realize that's not reality. Yeah. Like
Vince Russo still has not realized.
No,
this.
he hasn't, unfortunately. Like the big eye opener for me was, remember the UK election, where Twitter was just like inundated with like Labour's going to do it, and then the Conservatives fucking whomped them. That was like, I sat back and went, holy shit, that's like not reality at all. But yeah, so like in 1999, like I had begun secondary school, which is what the equivalent of high school, I suppose, in the US.
Well, it's middle school and high school are kind of molded together as secondary school in our country.
So I was in my first year. No, I would have been 1999. So this is October 99. So I would have been in my second year in secondary school.
Eighth grade.
Yes.
For our American friends.
And I can say safely that the amount of time I would spend on the internet in school was maybe an hour per week.
Yeah.
And then at home, maybe 2 hours over the course of the week. Like, it was not a lot.
Yeah. And it was like... And you were the prime age to... If the technology was with you, you would have been online all the time, but it wasn't in 99.
I will say, my dad was on top of all of that shit, as he was like a big tech guy. So one thing I've learned from talking to relatives and people that worked with him and stuff is, in the when was the internet birthed? It was like 1980, 84, 85, wasn't it, when the Swiss guy started it?
Oh, I wouldn't have an exact.
But I do know, like,
year on that.
My dad was like very early on, like he was online.
Yeah.
Because I do have memories of picking up the phone at home and getting the
yeah.
And like, again, I was a child, but like he had a computer room in our house when most families didn't even have enough beds in their house.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up around computers. I didn't take any of that information in because, you know, why would I? I wish I had. I'd be a fucking millionaire by now. But my dad was very much online. So the fact that me as a 13, 14-year-old was not that person tells you just how not omnipresent the internet was in our lives.
Yeah, and if only someone had explained this to Vince Russo, we could have saved ourselves a lot of heartache. But he says in a foreshadowing line, he says, "It's all in the stroke, Gino." And then that's that segment. Larry then talking to Mona, who's inexplicably in a head towel. She's just like, even though she's fully clothed, isn't she? She's like,
she's fully clothed. She's in her
evening gown on, so it's not like she's just out with a shower, but she's still got the towel around her hair. She says she's never been in an evening gown match, but she does point out she has won matches wearing an evening gown because that was her gear. So that does put her at a tactical advantage here. We then get another backstage segment of Kimberly talking to the invisible camera as she looks around for David Flair. Sid with the lawyers again. He says he's concerned that he's paying $350 an hour. He doesn't want to sound cheap about it, though, but things better get done tonight. Although, now, I will say, I could have done with... There's a lot of these segments I could have done without. I could have done with another 5 segments of listening to Sid working out legal strategy. Because it's just a very funny concept to me.
I wish they had given Sid a whiteboard.
Get him to do some flowcharts.
They're just...
be great. We then get a WCW World Tag Team title match.
Mm-hmm.
Harlem Heat versus the Filthy Animals, Conan and Rey Mysterio Jr. I did notice that during Conan's promo, the people shouting the loudest were the whitest men in Philadelphia that night.
Yep.
Then we get, again, a minute of wrestling. So, guys, I need you, everybody listening, to adjust your expectations, because I know sometimes people have talked to us about how they really appreciate how we break down. It's like either the story of a match or a lot of the moves that happen in a match and the sequences and things like that. That era is over.
Yeah,
and not because we want it to be.
Unless it's a pay-per-view, I don't think we're getting any lengthy matches here. I think there's one on this show.
I think there's one or two matches here where I explain a series of spots.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Most matches now are going to be a minute or 2 minutes of either bland stuff or stuff that is good, but by the time I've started typing it, the match is over.
It's been interrupted.
So we get about a minute, and then Eddie, Kidman, and Tori in a fur coat come out. Tony, in something I do not care for, is starting to get Eddie G going as a nickname.
Yeah.
Nope.
I thought you were going to address the fact that Tony literally turns his body to just stare at Tori for the entirety of this match.
I wrote at one stage, poor Lois, because there's a bit where Tony looks Tori dead in the eyes, and look, it's Tori Wilson.
Incredibly beautiful.
Look, all-timer. Yes, totally. But happily married man Tony turns to her repeatedly and just gets giggles. He's just like a little schoolboy. He can't handle it.
At one stage, Kidman was like, Tony, you need to call the match.
Yeah. Look at the matches over there. Oh my god. Poor woman being paraded on TV. What age? She's like
21.
She's 25. She's 25. Yeah. That's I just googled it there.
Okay.
She's born in 1975.
So
she's 24.
So was it Stacy that was stupidly young then?
Yes, I want to say so. Let's double check.
Because I know one of them was.
Yeah. So she's only 44 now. So she was 20.
Yeah, okay.
When we saw her on this show. She'd literally just turned 20 the previous week when we saw her on this show.
There you go. Yeah.
And yeah, she's got. Yeah, I just see she's been married since 2014, and she has at least 3 children. So fair play to her. She's living the most normal life on earth.
I'm fucking delighted for her.
God bless her for getting away from this shit. So Kidman says Tori has a special outfit on for him later. Tony then, very stone-faced, asks if he can have a peek. Then, immediately after this, we don't cut back to the ring. We cut backstage to the First Family watching on and having an argument. And I wrote, there is so much happening. And I wrote, poor Lois. Tony is clearly besotted with Tori. Oh yeah, there's one bit where she looks at him and he gives her a little wave.
I think it's at that point Eddie starts taking the piss out of Harlem Heat, saying they're out of shape.
Yeah. Eddie, and he starts shouting at Booker to stop looking at him. Booker eventually has enough, drops down to the floor, starts fighting with the animals. The animals double team and roll up Stevie, and we get new champions. They couldn't wait 6 days to switch these belts to somebody else.
To be fair, I wouldn't have switched them to the First Family.
Yes. But this is fucking, this is atrocious. This is, it really... You couldn't have done some sort of, have, even if you didn't want to switch on to the First Family, have the Filthy Animals take out the First Family and on this show and challenge Harlem Heat, and then have your title switch at the pay-per-view. Now, had to be night one, no build, random tag team match, title switched.
Now, we should say, the Filthy Animals are being positioned as heels here. they are positioned as heels later on when it's involving David Flair. They are then positioned as faces when it comes to their feud with the Revolution.
Yes. Also, yes, speaking of things that are happening in this pay-per-view cycle, the entire pay-per-view cycle has been about Filthy Animals versus the Revolution.
Yes.
And about the First Family versus Harlem Heat. And they've just fucked out both of those storylines in one go here. Kimberly then finds David. She strongly implies she wants to bang him and invites him to the Marriott afterwards. Now, there are things in this show that stretch credibility. Kimberly Page wanting a bit of David Flair. No. That exposes the business, let me tell you.
Now, again, Kimberly Page, all-timer.
Yes.
David Flair, that's my fucking spit catches.
All-time fucking idiot.
The most fucking gormless man in the history of the business.
Idiot. Looking like he wants to cry. Fucking hell. I also don't get. We'll talk about the payoff to this angle.
There is none.
I don't get what the point of any of this was. No, there is. Somebody pays off. Anyway, then we see Tenay celebrating with the animals. Eddie dumps the water cooler over them. Then the awkward bit, the camera pans a little, and Stacy Keibler is just standing there with them.
She's just there with Tori.
Because she's not, now, to my knowledge, she's not associated, because she wins the Nitro Girl thing. And then I think she's doing that for a little bit. And then Miss Hancock starts.
Yes.
I don't remember an interstitial period.
She, like, her being on the show is the return of the Nitro Girls.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure it's like, that's where all the jealousy and infighting starts. Because, Russo.
Could it just be that this show was already so chaotic that she was just, like, walking back, like, to get her car home and just happened to wander into this segment?
Who knows?
Like,
she was just there. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and then, the First Family interrupt that, and Jimmy Hart says they expect their shot at the title still on Sunday. Then we get a match that makes absolutely no sense. Meng versus Hugh Morris with Jimmy Hart. Now, I get that in some ways you could say it does make sense because Meng used to be associated with Jimmy and now he's not, so we're settling some beef during the First Family push. I get that element of it, but what I mean by it makes no sense is that there is nobody that can win here without the booking looking stupid, because you are currently pushing the First Family as the number one contenders for the tag titles, but you're also currently pushing Meng as an unkillable monster. So you are either going to break Meng's streak of wins 3 weeks in, or you're going to pin one of the number one contenders for the tag titles, but he's going to be pinned by a singles guy, so it's not like he's going to do a chase for the titles if they win it.
But Dave, they do the better thing. They have an even better idea. So halfway through this like 2-minute match or 2.5-minute match, we get the outsiders coming through the crowd.
Can I also say, by the way, as we get to that Hugh Morris doing a fake tough guy routine, pretending he wants to stand there and box with Meng, is about the funniest thing I've seen since Meng saw the Shockmaster.
I did watch that. Incredible.
Yes, the outsiders come out, and as happens a lot of the time when they do these crowd angles, it takes the entire crowd completely out of what's left of this match. They don't care because the real stars arrived. Now, I will say, we will talk about their segments. I thought this outsiders bit they're doing all night was incredibly annoying.
Yes.
And bad. And it leads to next week. All I will say about next week is the outsiders versus the porn stars.
Well, it won't be next week on this show. It's like four shows
next
from
week.
now.
It's next week in 1999 time. It's in about 4 shows time
for us. Yeah, it's like 8 weeks from now for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Morris stares at them before landing a middle rope elbow. Meng then just chokes out Morris, clean as a sheet.
Yeah, tongue and neck grip. It's over.
And then the outsiders are in the front row with unidentified women. Sid and the lawyers are on the way. Goldberg is pacing and watching him come out. Sid comes out, and then he invites the lawyers, one of whom is trying extremely hard not to laugh. Now, I think the thing that annoyed me the most happens next. Because Goldberg comes out and quite literally executes a man with a spear.
Mm-hmm.
He killed this man to death with a spear, and he hit the back of his head on the bottom turnbuckle as well, and he almost immediately gets up.
Yeah.
Within 5 seconds, this lawyer, he's not a wrestler, he is a lawyer, gets up and is not selling at all.
Mm-hmm. Like, Goldberg comes out, hits that...
Fuck me.
He comes out, hits that spear, and turns around into a big boot from Sid. Like, Sid does a little bit of, like, selling of taking off the shirt and tie, or, like, you know, opening the shirt, taking off the tie, and sets up Goldberg for the powerbomb. By the time he's setting up Goldberg for the powerbomb, the lawyer is up on the apron. Like, he's literally in the camera shot, yeah.
Not selling. You wouldn't know anything had happened to him. He stuffs the contract down Bill Goldberg's throat. And again, one of the things I've pointed out about this, Sid got what he wanted. He got Goldberg to give up the match by attacking him.
Mm-hmm.
And now Sid voluntarily goes back into the match with him.
Yeah.
It says, like, he tears up the contract, stuffs it down his throat, and says, I'll kick your ass on Sunday.
Do you know what I hate the most about this angle?
That if Sid was just a badass...
No, well,
then,
I mean,
like,
that would be better, yes, but...
They weren't communicating that he was afraid of Goldberg and trying to get out of the match, that it would be better? Yes.
No, the fact that they are now calling Sid's powerbomb the Jackknife powerbomb.
Yeah.
Because, oh boy, wait until January if you have not seen any WCW. Because there is a legendary match in January.
Yes. Yes, there is. So the segment ends then with Goldberg, once he recovers, he goes for the outsiders. And there has to be a pull apart with all the security. We come back from the break and the outsiders are being escorted by the most hilarious looking security guard of all time. He looks like he's in a pound shop disguise.
Doug Dillinger?
In this... What?
Doug Dillinger?
No, this guy in a giant ginger, looks like a wig with a massive mustache. Like, it does look like he just bought a disguise in a shop. Nash says he will get sick going out without a coat. Which I just wrote, Kevin Nash is my granny. But this is laying the seeds for a running bit that is not funny.
Oh, wait.
That will go on for the rest of the night.
His cough medicine?
Yes.
Actually, we didn't mention one significant thing on this show is Goldberg's trunks.
Yes, I literally have it written down because I didn't notice it until the replay, which they show after this, which is that he's got something written on his trunks this time. Team Obake, who I assume is the gym he was training with, is it?
That's what I'm assuming. I have Team Obake. I didn't look it up, so I'm assuming that's what it is. But yeah, this is the only time I ever recall him having something written on his trunks.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if it sticks around.
Because I remember...
So Dave Meltzer 7 years ago comes to help us there. Goldberg financed that gym.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
I remember the Goldberg logo on the back of the trunks in WWE.
Yes. Oh, and his little booty shorts.
Yeah, his booty shorts.
Yeah. Right. Oh, God, there's so much... When I see the gaps in between matches on this show, I'm like, fucking hell. Brett is with Tenay. Brett says, you know what, I'll take a title shot any way I can get it. Sting interrupts and they brawl. Because, of course, everything has to be interrupted. The outsiders, again, they tell the security that the broads paid $1,500 each to hang with them that night. And then we cut again to Goldberg backstage hunting for Sid. So we will have basically a Scooby-Doo chase for the rest of the night, because we already had Kimberly looking for David Flair. And then we have the exact same angle with Goldberg looking for Sid. And then we're about to have the exact same angle as well with Nash and Hall looking for Goldberg.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, how big is that backstage? But also...
cavernous.
Can I just say, it is stunning to me as a married man, that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall almost got divorced in 1999 by their wives because of what they did on TV.
Shocking, isn't it?
I just can't believe it. They were just, so unlucky.
Yeah. Our next match made me pine for the backstage segments because it's Rick Steiner versus Berlin.
What the fuck? Like of all the combinations you can come up with, Berlin, the fucking American-hating heel,
yeah,
and Rick Steiner, the heel-hating person.
Yeah. Like, you're going to get one of them over as a babyface by accident here.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And this is, like, again, a Vince Russo thing. Like, he doesn't care about the matches, and if the matches make sense, the important thing is the angle that happens in the middle of the match. Because we had Brad Armstrong run out for no reason because Berlin was not winning this match.
Nope. Berlin gets nothing in this match.
Yes. And yet, he wins. Because he comes out for no reason, which massively distracts Rick Steiner. And Berlin wins.
Well, no, see, what happens is Berlin gets knocked to the floor. Brad runs in inexplicably, stands on the apron, which Rick Steiner takes offense to, and puts a sleeper or chokehold, whatever you want to call it, on Brad's. And the wall hits Rick in the head with the weakest looking chair shot this side of Terry Bollea. Mm-hmm. And Berlin just gets the pin.
Yeah.
And then Rick Steiner proceeds to kick the ever-loving shit out of the one babyface in the match.
Yeah. Brad Armstrong, World Police, doing a fucking stellar run here. And Berlin celebrates... like, not only does Rick Steiner beat the dog fuck out of Brad, but he drags him backstage to presumably continue beating him for the rest of the night. Then we have Scott and Kev sneaking around like fucking Looney Tunes looking for the cold medicine. Like, I don't know, the implication is that they left it out at ringside, but they never returned to ringside, yet by the next segment they have it.
I'm assuming one of the security men got it for them.
Then we get Kimberly arriving at the hotel. Then we get Kimberly entering the room at the hotel. She takes off her jacket. Now, here is something I am noticing about Vince Russo. One, he only sees women as use for something to ogle at. But also, I think he has a stated preference towards women in one-piece lingerie. Because two women expose themselves as being in lingerie tonight, and the only commonality between the two sets of underwear is that they are both one-piece situations.
Well, I mean, it was a swimsuit Kimberly had on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a sparkly swimsuit.
Yeah.
But it's, like, I think, like, the implication is that it's supposed to be lingerie. But they clearly didn't, like, she obviously did not show up to the arena assuming she was going to be exposing herself in a hotel room that evening. So they had to make do.
Well, I don't think it's that they had to make do. I think it's that it's fucking TNT and they ain't putting that shit on.
Okay, so the shower is on. And she's talking away, assuming David is getting ready. Then the door opens and Ric Flair jumps out ready to shag. And now, I'm going to ignore, for now, the obvious implications about the man.
Yeah.
That he leapt out with an expectation of essentially assaulting this woman. I mean, there's no, like, it's just so honking obvious and on the nose. There's no point, apart from addressing it, there's no point in getting into the signs were there. However, what I want to dive into is there are only two possibilities for how this has happened. Either Ric Flair is constantly surveilling his son so that he may cook him, or David Flair saw an opportunity to have sex with Kimberly Page and went, do you know who'd love this? My dad's penis.
I was going to bring up...
So he either got cooked by his dad, or he willingly wingmanned himself out of Kimberly Page in favour of his dad. And I don't know what's worse. Both make him look like a gormless idiot. Now, you had a point to make about this, and I don't think, based on your reaction, that it was where I was going.
No, it wasn't. I was just going to simply point out that you say correctly that when Kimberly comes into the room, the shower is on.
Oh, yeah.
And Kimberly shouts in, like, oh, you're getting ready, that's great. And then Ric Flair comes out fully clothed.
And dry.
Yeah.
And he's even got his tie on.
So...
Yeah.
What?
Because, no, yeah. But again, in terms of the on-the-nose thing, he was doing it as a ruse to assault her, Lee. Like, that's the... Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the heavy implication.
I really didn't want to think of it that way.
I couldn't think of another way to think about it. Like, that's...
But I mean...
Again, it's like, I can't believe... Like, the reason... I'm laughing awkwardly here because it's so fucking brazen. Like, it's so fucking brazen with this man's reputation that it's like, holy shit. Holy shit.
And I believe it's not the last time we'll get a Ric Flair in this kind of situation.
No. Absolutely not. Anyway.
I mean,
move on for now. Unfortunately, this is not the last of this.
We should point out that we are fully in the Kimberly era now.
Yes. Kimberly is all over the show for like a long time going forward.
Yeah, up until like the middle, like the end of the summer of 2000, I'm pretty sure she's all over the show.
Yeah. And look, do you know what I mean? In terms of like some of the of the Nitro girls you could have picked to give a strong TV role to, she is inarguably very charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so fair play. Goldberg beats up the Insane Clown Posse. This was great. This was the return of the Insane Clown Posse. Was standing around backstage. Goldberg says, "Where's Sid?" They say they don't know, and he kicks the shit out of them. Perfect. The only thing that's missing is Shaggy Two Dope's trousers falling down. He did it.
I actually saw a clip of I don't know where I saw it. It must have been the Discord. Of the Insane Clown Posse talking about them wrestling.
Yeah.
And Violent J talks about doing the moonsault and fucking up his ankle.
Yeah.
And how like they came back to wrestling recently, and they wrestled in Hurricane Hall. Oh, do you know what it was? It was Botchamania. And he talks about, you know, going to Japan and, you know, what an honor it was and stuff. And he's like, you know, like I'm in Japan, I have to do the moonsault. And he's like, I'm so much older now, I'm so much fatter. And he's like, he did a moonsault and basically fucked up. Like he said, if the guy wasn't there, I would have broke my neck. He literally lands head first on the guy's midsection.
My God.
It's fucking disgusting.
I love that he was like, you know, I was dog shit at this moonsault. Do you know what this moonsault needed to be perfect? 25 years.
Yeah.
Of age and burgers.
Whereas Slim J is just going, yo, I told him he's a fucking idiot. Like, you just, you know, you don't need to do this.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Right, where are we now? Oh, yeah. Larry
with
backstage. Okay, so I need to get your takes on this because you, I think, are reading far too much into this to try and give credit to the package. Because what I saw was Lex Luger completely forget his line 4 or 5 different times in 30 seconds. And you saw some sort of subtextual masterpiece. So fucking have the floor, Lee, because I'm not doing this.
Okay, so
I need to also underscore is that sometimes I genuinely can't tell when Lee's taking the piss.
No,
like
I am deadly serious here.
Yeah, okay, that is what you would say when you were taking the piss as well. So
just
have at it.
Fuck
I'm going
off.
to let the listeners decide.
They'll be on my side for once.
I had to deal with years of continuity Malone on this show trying to do that bullshit with a straight face.
Like, you loved the package funeral. Or sorry, the Lex Luger funeral.
I sure did.
You thought it was brilliant.
Now, I don't think it was brilliant in the way he probably thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant in a very Buff Bagwell in the mirror way.
I think that if this isn't intentional, I think this is the greatest gimmick in WCW.
My contention would be, it's not in any way deliberate.
Package is so insecure in everything he says. Like, he's constantly looking for reassurance from the interviewer. He's constantly looking for reassurance from Liz. He's actually looking out of frame to make sure nobody else is listening. I think it's brilliant. I genuinely think that this promo is fucking fantastic.
You sound like a Bloodline fan. You've gone Bloodline brainworms.
Hear me out,
Lex
Dave.
Luger.
Hear me out.
This is the real story.
Mama Rhodes, okay? No, I don't know if it's intentional. I hope it is, because I hope it continues on.
It's not, but it will continue, because I think the actual thing you're seeing in this is he actually is a very insecure man.
It's quite possible that's what it is, and that's what I picked up on. But I think it's great. I think it's fucking hilarious, and the fact that he is afraid of skeletons, I think, just adds to it.
Yes. He said he doesn't care what clowns get beaten up. He's the total package, and he's wrestled everybody. It's something he's talking about a lot. We then have footage of the women getting ready for the evening gown match, and this leads us into our next match: David Flair, who sucks, versus Kidman. My first note of this match was, God, he sucks so bad, draining the heat out of a Billy Kidman match. Tori gets up on the apron to disrobe and distract almost immediately. Flair, and this is like, look, you say that the Filthy Animals are portrayed as heels in this match, and yet one of the classic Vince Russo heel heat getting spots is the man telling the woman to cover up. And she just wants to be nakedly.
Did Billy tell Tori to cover up?
He did.
Okay, I didn't know.
No, sorry, not Billy. Sorry, David Flair does, because that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Filthy Animals are supposed to be the heels, but David Flair is telling her to cover up, and he gets massively booed for it.
Oh, so that's what it is. She's on the apron, she flashes, and then he turns around into the BK bomb.
No, she doesn't even get to, because she doesn't get to successfully.
Yeah,
at
she
the
opened
end of the match. She's starting to open, and he bundles her up.
Okay, right.
He walks into oh my god, he takes the worst sky high in history.
Mm-hmm.
And then shooting star press, where he fucking crashes his knee through David Flair's cheek. At David Flair, you can hear him go, "Oh fuck!" Like he's holding his cheek, like he's really fucked up.
I felt bad for him. It's fucking. Look, you're a heartless prick.
Proud of it.
But yeah, a knee to the face off a shooting star, not nice.
Yeah. The Filthy Animals come out immediately. They beat David down, and then I was like, were they not baby faces before this week? And then I wrote, Rick can't help because he be fucking. That's what I wrote.
Well, you say that, Dave.
Yeah. Well, then I wrote, outsiders are sneaking around still looking for Goldberg, and then I wrote, Flair returns from the fucking. I had meant to do try to time in real time how much time it took him, bearing in mind he was fully robed.
Yes.
In the hotel room. Strip down, get the act done, put his clothes back on, and get over from the Marriott to wherever this building was.
4, 5 segments. So you're talking
about 6 minutes.
Probably 2 ad breaks. Like, I mean, 12 minutes between him being in the hotel room and being back in the building.
Yeah. I wonder how far apart the Marriott in Philly and this building was. Answers on a postcard, folks. So somebody listening to this is going to do the Google Maps on it. Yeah. Next up, it's the New York evening gown match everybody's been looking forward to. It's Mona versus Medusa, and I hope I don't have to do this frequently, but I have a new feature on this program.
Oh no!
In the vein of Smooth Jimmy's lock of the week, I am I am willing to award this match Vince Russo's Wank of the Night. Because every show Vince Russo will do will have something that is either a personal kink to him in either a sexual way or in a gratification of his ego sort of way. And this is clearly where he, in a number of ways, peaked on this show.
Okay, so the one everyone talks about is the fact that he was constantly trying to get Liz to strip off.
Yes.
And that's,
which I was surprised didn't start on night one.
Everyone points that one out. But everyone forgets that Medusa was a big part of early 90s WWF.
Yeah.
So him getting Medusa on night one into an evening gown match.
Yeah. And out of it.
Yeah. Is just fucking creep.
Old Vic Venom, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vic Venom's a fucking snake. So Mona goes up to... God bless them. Like, because we love Mona. I like Medusa as well. And they try to have a match.
They actually have some wrestling.
Yeah, but now, because it's an evening gown match, and because of the way 90s wrestling has been going, the crowd immediately doesn't want to see wrestling anymore. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how they had actually been slowly building credibility of women wrestling on these shows, and they have fucking evaporated it in one night, because now all they want to see is some titty.
Mm-hmm.
I was fucking appalled. I'm not surprised, but I was appalled at how literally one women's match into the era, and he has obliterated all the credibility that they had tried for months, literal months on this show to build up with Mona.
Is it any fucking surprise that Mona walked away from this company?
No. Not at all.
Now, the place she went wasn't much better, but...
No. In fact, it would be a company that would eventually go on to make fun of how much she didn't want to do this kind of stuff and make it her character. And as much as she was good as that character, it's still like, fuck's sake.
Look, all I can say is at least... Look, I'm gonna try and defend the women here. Medusa, whether...
Oh, look, I'll defend the women. I just won't defend the book.
No. I'm not defending the booking of it at all. Whether it was real or fucking booking or whatever, Medusa coming out in like just the kind of casual sports, like casual dress. I don't know what you'd call it.
Yeah.
And then just having a sports bra and fucking shorts on. Look, at least it wasn't lingerie.
Yeah.
But it's so fucking blatantly obvious what Vince Russo wants the show to be.
Yeah. Straight away. Like the tone shift, like I said, in like if you compare the last time two women wrestled to this one, you know, it's fucking disgraceful. It is fucking disgraceful. So she slaps down Mona, throws her in the corner. Tony says that slap was for the whole creative team. I fucking groaned. Mona ducks a roundhouse and knocks out the ref. Attempts a back suplex pin. Realizes the ref is out. She hits Mona with a chair. Messes up the announcer's papers. And they're like, we had nothing to do with this. Mona rips her dress off. Big boos. No music plays. I wrote... Mona looks pissed off. Medusa looks pissed off. I'm pissed off. Medusa gets on the mic and says she didn't want this match and everyone here can kiss her ass, which got a load of people going, ooh.
Yeah.
And I wrote, one night in and we have an angle where someone's rebelling against creative.
Mm-hmm.
One night. Not even 2 hours, because we're about to hit the top of the hour next.
Yep.
And we get the one probable actual wrestling show on this match, because maybe on his first night in, the one person he was too afraid to cut to 1 minute was Brett and Sting for the World Heavyweight title. This was all right.
I thought this was a good match. I thought it was a good little TV match.
Yeah. I think they disappointed us because in their little mini feud we covered a while back on the pod.
Do you remember, we thought the actual matches themselves were disappointments, but that brawl they had...
Yeah, that was great.
That was a great brawl. Remember the one that ended because Sting... Wasn't that when Sting got legit hurt?
Yeah.
I can't even remember if it was Thunder or Nitro or whatever it was, but they brawled backstage, and it ends with one of them had the sharpshooter Scorpion on, and the show ended.
Yeah.
But I thought this was the best match that we've seen of them having so far. Yeah. I think if it had an actual finish, not involving fucking the package, it would have been great. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I can't have any complaints about putting on a world title match with two big names and having your world champion win clean. Mm-hmm. I did the inverted commas, by the way, for people who can't see.
Yeah. So we'll skip ahead to the end. I had written that it was wild that this was given time because nothing else was on this show. Mm-hmm. At one point, Brett fires up on Sting, makes a comeback, sharpshooter, but Sting gets the ropes. Sting attempts a headlock, which had been a kind of... He was doing the thing of doing chin locks and headlocks to slow Brett down and prove he could out-wrestle him throughout the match. Brett hits him with a back suplex. Sting goes for a top rope splash. Brett gets the knees up. Then Elizabeth comes out. Brett hits a side Russian leg sweep. Brett has a great side Russian leg sweep. Brett does the elbow drop, the middle rope elbow drop. Package runs out. Mm-hmm. Brett cuts him off. Atomic drop to Sting. Package hits him in the shin with a bat. Deathlock and a tap out.
I did think that was good, though. Like, the fact that he took out Package and then Package comes back and kind of... He doesn't hit him in the head or in the back. He just goes for the ankle.
Yeah.
Because that, again, plays into the Scorpion.
We then get Rick and David backstage, and I think maybe the funniest soundbite in this whole show is when David just turns to Rick and goes, explaining what just happened while he was fucking. He goes, Kidman beat me up, and Rick goes, what?
Billy Kidman?
He is like, he's about to fully disown David for this. He says, come on, we got some work to do. The outsiders are still rambling around. Fucking terrible. We come back from the break.
Now, Dave,
still rambling around.
I just want to point out, Dave.
Oh, I knew you were going to fucking do this.
I know you might be confused, okay? I just want to point out that was not Los Villanos calling out Senior Goldberg.
Thanks, man. Yes, they went into the dressing room, stole the Villanos mask. I don't even think they mentioned the Villanos by name because they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, because they're like you. They don't recognize the Villanos.
Fuck off. Next up we get Buff Bagwell versus La Parka. The La Parka look with the chains and the cape is fucking boss. Mm-hmm. Man, what a dude. This match is so egregiously offensive to me.
Yep.
When Buff started doing the bit he does here, I had a feeling I knew what was about to happen. I didn't realise that the first half of what he does connects to what happens to him then. Mm-hmm. I didn't remember that much. So do you want to explain what Buff starts doing during the match part of this match, and I'll take the after match?
Okay, so you can't even start with a match because Buff comes out and he has the boo-boo face on. And the commentary during this match is fucking horrendous, and it's Tony and Bobby, and I get they're only doing what they're being told to do on the earpiece, but they are selling that there's something wrong with Buff. This isn't the Buff Bagwell we know. Something's not right. And Buff proceeds to have a match with La Parka, inverted commas. But every time something happens, Buff retreats to the corner and looks forlorn or upset and not himself. Yeah. And then he goes into the Buff strut and does a very slow motion double fucking bicep. And as he does that, he waves La Parka towards him to kick him in the head.
And Parker does kick him in the head.
And pins him. And the commentators act all stunned. And they mentioned that Buff waved him and told him to kick him in the head. And they sell this as some kind of upset win.
That it wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah. And then
Buff gets straight back up.
I was just going to say,
not selling.
Buff gets up, doesn't sell it, proceeds to get out of the ring. And he takes the headset from one of them. And Dave, what happens next?
He says, Mr. Russo, did I do a good job? Then he gets in the ring and he starts starfishing.
He also
remember this.
He also says on the headset, "Is there anybody else back there that you want me to lay down for? Maybe you want to pin me."
Yeah. And then he gets in the ring, he starfishes, and I remember that part, but I don't remember it being connected to this next very memorable part, where Double by God J arrives, runs into the ring, actually dressed like he dresses now, weirdly. Hits him with the El Kabonk, the acoustic equalizer, gets on the mic, and he says, "You want to talk about stroke? 24 hours ago, I was in Cleveland wrestling on a pay-per-view, and tonight I'm here." And he goes, "I got your stroke right here," and grabs his junk. So Jeff Jarrett has arrived in World Championship Wrestling. So between him and Russo, the final horsemen of the WCW apocalypse are now in place.
Now, I will give him credit. Jeff Jarrett looks in fucking incredible shape.
Yeah. For sure.
What I won't give him credit for is this whole angle. Like, from start to finish, all this shit involving Buff.
He is now, Jeff is the least egregious part of this whole thing.
Yeah. Jeff gets all the heat. Like, everyone hates on Jeff for his whole WCW run. Like his 2001 run. I think one thing we are going to see is, of all the people to blame for WCW's demise, Jeff Jarrett is not one of them.
No.
He never lacks in effort.
Yeah.
And people...
It's one of those things like, what's he going to do? Say, no, don't push me as the top guy?
People like to say that, like, him being champion killed the company. It didn't. It fucking didn't. And, like, they say about TNA and, like, he made himself champion, blah, blah, blah. I mean, what was he supposed to do? The fucking WWE signed everybody else.
I will say, I subscribe to the Garrett Kidney philosophy that Jeff Jarrett is more entertaining the less a company tries to convince you he's the top guy. I do agree that I don't think any of my problem with Jeff Jarrett is about Jeff Jarrett. I think he's trying his damnedest. I think the problem is that for the next God knows how long, this company tries to force Jeff Jarrett down your throat as the top guy.
But in the most fucking ridiculous ways.
Yes. And yeah, I am looking forward to delving a bit more into that and seeing if our instincts on that are fully correct or if there's more blame to be apportioned to Jeff than we think at this point. We shall find out. Oh Lord, we shall find out. Security then backstage tries to confront the alleged Villanos. This leads into, God, you want to talk about how he feels about mid-carders. Match already in ring. 3-way elimination match. Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero, and Chavo Guerrero. Shane Douglas is on commentary. Now, I will say, the one shining light of this segment is a great heel Shane Douglas line at the very start, where he said, "I goddamn built Philadelphia and I kept wrestling alive in this godforsaken city," which is so fucking good.
He also says at some point into the, like halfway through the match, he's like, "These three are crossing the line here in Philadelphia tonight."
Yeah.
And you understand that reference?
Yes, of course I do.
Yeah, okay.
This match is dull as fuck until a moment that popped me where Eddie just dumps Chavo on his arse over the ropes with a suplex. Again, we talk about psychology that makes no sense, and at least 2 of the men in this match should know better than this. Why are these 3 men breaking up pins in an elimination 3-way? They're constantly saving people, and they have no alliance with each other at this point.
Do you think that these 3 had any more than, I want to say, 20 minutes notice that this was a match?
No. Also, I would say, like, because of their, at least 2 of them, because of their wrestling sensibilities, I'd say they were outright told they had to keep breaking up pins.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Perry and Eddie Guerrero would do that, would volunteer that as a key spot in the match, that this was something they would keep doing. I nearly screamed at a point in this match.
Is it the Tower of Doom?
Would you like to explain what happens in this spot?
Yeah, so everybody knows the Superplex Tower of Doom out of the corner spot now. It happens in every scramble, every multi-man tag team fucking title match.
Every trios match.
Like, everyone's aware of what a Tower of Doom spot is. But these 3 in 1999, the Tower of Doom was not an omnipresent spot at this point. Even 3-ways weren't happening all that regularly.
No. I could probably count on one hand the amount of 3-ways we've had since we started watching the show, and almost all of them were in the DDP Benoit Canyon Raven feud.
So I can't even remember who was doing which part of the Tower of Doom, but the 3 of them are on the turnbuckle, and I think it's Chavo that's given the superplex to somebody, and the person that's putting Chavo onto their shoulders, I think it's Saturn that puts Chavo onto his shoulders, and it's Eddie taking the superplex. So Saturn is on the middle rope. He's not on the mat.
Yeah.
He is up on the middle rope, which is very much different from what you would expect from a Tower of Doom. Because, there has to be a bit of control to it.
Also, you need to be able to kick your legs at a certain... Like, you need room.
You need control and room to maneuver. So, Chavo has Eddie hooked for the superplex. Saturn gets underneath him. And they proceed to fall like, they should. Eddie lands fine. Saturn lands fine. It's Chavo. Chavo lands on his neck on top of, I think it's Saturn that he lands on. And his neck is not at a good angle.
Nope. And then Eddie lands on top of him.
Yeah. And similar to you, I fucking shrieked because I was like, oh shit, that's not good.
He is so fucking lucky. Like, when you think how... Because I watched the Buff Bagwell Dark Side of the Ring episode, and you think how easily, like, just a slip head first into Rick Steiner's back severed this man's vertebrae. And yet this happens to Chavo, and he walks out under his own power.
Now,
he's fine.
I will say, I don't know if you noticed this, the camera leaves that fucking ring instantly.
Yeah. I think, like, rightfully so, because you would assume this guy may have just died. Like...
So, they instantly go close fucking zoom on Shane Douglas. And at that point, the Filthy Animals come out.
Yeah.
Now, I have every faith that the Filthy Animals were going to come out to ringside anyway.
Oh, yes.
But they do not go back to that ring until they know Chavo is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Chavo is face down on the mat for a significant amount of time, and they are talking to him, like Eddie and Saturn are talking to him.
Yeah.
But that was, like... Unfortunately, we've seen some really bad injuries in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
How Chavo survived that, I don't fucking know.
No, he's like... I know we clown on Chavo so much, but like fucking hell, I was so relieved to see him moving and walking at the end. It's one of those where it looked so rough that it takes you momentarily out of the fact that he's fine, and he's still fine now in 2024, because it looks so bad that your brain can't possibly process how this man is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even trying to scan back right now on Cage Match and see if he missed any significant period of time during this.
He goes on to win this match, so I very much doubt he does.
Yeah, so this is the 18th of... he wrestles 4 days later on a house show. And 4 days after that on Saturday night. And then 2 days after that, he starts a run of a couple of straight thunders. So, yeah, he's grand. He's completely grand. It's scary. It's the thing that people always say. It's like you will do the scariest spot in the world and walk away absolutely fine, and then you will absolutely destroy yourself on a really simple. Rob Van Dam breaking his leg into pieces on a baseball slide. Yeah. The fucking the dude, one of the top flight dudes on a Canadian destroyer, taking a Canadian destroyer.
That was one of the ones I was talking about that we've unfortunately seen recently. Phoenix, his arm fucking snapped.
Sid Vicious, big boot off the top. Do you know what I mean? Like all this stuff it's not like big complex flippy doos. Like it's simple stuff. And these are where the big injuries happen. And yet Chavo gets involved in this and like somehow not only gets up, but as you said, hits a springboard tornado DDT and wins immediately after. So there was a frog splash to Saturn that eliminates him, and then the springboard DDT. They were obviously way out of time. The animals jump him at the bell and they check on Eddie. There's a great, as we go into a recap of the show so far, which is so funny because so much has happened on Nitro they needed a recap, but Tony has a great line where he goes, "Tonight so many things have gone down, you need a scorecard, and never have truer words been spoken, Tony." Next up, I thought this is very funny, but it does ultimately lead to some good dumb fun. The return of hardcore matches to WCW. Remember, there was never going to be another hardcore match again. Now, I do have a little soft spot for the very silly WCW hardcore division of 2000 and 2001. Yeah. So I am looking forward to that.
I did enjoy Tony's fake enthusiasm for the return of the hardcore match. It was great.
We're going to have an infamous Terry Funk match at a farm that I can't wait for.
Yeah.
But yes, since the Junkyard match, hardcore matches have been banned outright in this company.
Rightly so, because they nearly killed Fit Finlay.
They nearly killed half the roster in that match. He wasn't Fit Finlay was the one who nearly legitimately died, but a lot of people got fucked up in that match. But I just love that it's immediately under Russo. It's like, well, no, I can't actually write an episode of television without a hardcore match, so we're just going to have to do it. It's Horace versus, I believe we have just seen the genesis, not of McGillicuddy,
no,
but of the gimmick that would later become known as Screaming Norman Smiley. I always wondered if we would happen upon where it started, and it appears we have.
Yes, because both Tony and Brain are like, is he crying? Is that Norman making those noises? Why is there a man crying in wrestling?
There's a bit where they're tickled by it, and then by the end they're genuinely concerned for his welfare.
I do like that of all the people they selected for this, they picked the guy with the legit wrestling background.
Yeah. This would have been a great gimmick to get over somebody who couldn't wrestle. Like, he just takes a whipping and screams like a girl.
Yeah.
And he does, and this is the thing, Norman was getting a bit over. We did note that people really do like Norman, fans. But, this, now, we're grading on a curve because it's the dying days of WCW. But, guys, this gimmick, this Screaming Norman Smiley thing gets over like Rover. It really does.
Can I say something?
What?
Screaming Norman in 2000 WWF, I think he would be an all-time great character.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ridiculous character that can take the baton from Crash Holly.
That's exactly what I was thinking. He becomes that legendary, hardcore wrestler, you know. He becomes that comedy guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I thought this was real. Like, it's not hardcore. There's like a chair and a table involved.
Yeah. And the steps.
Oh, the steps, yeah.
But I wanted to talk about the finish to this match, where Horace sets up a table. Mm-hmm. He immediately does the Kurt Angle chair spot where he bounces off the top rope, hits himself in the face, and then immediately shoulder barges himself into the table. Norman pokes him with his foot to see if he's dead, and then pins him. So, take the Norman Smiley stuff out of this. I want to return us to something we talked about earlier in the show, and that's Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. So Hulk Hogan is his only main mention on this show is as a politician. Like I said, up and down the card, the people who either were his allies or were particularly his allies who were getting pushed are nowhere to be found, with the exception of his direct relative, Horace Hogan, who gets involved in the most slip on a banana peel idiot loss of the whole night. Mm-hmm. And as we will go on to note over the coming weeks, I do not for one momently believe any of this was coincidental.
No. We will talk about it when we get the Havoc. But we do know that historically Vince Russo came into this company and said, I'm not pushing your Hogans and your Flairs and your old guys, your Savages. Like, Savage is done. He's gone.
Yeah.
And, Russo's big thing, as he says many, many times in interviews, is he's here for your Buff Bagwells, your Discos. They're the guys he wants. Mm-hmm. And it's so telling. Like, we didn't notice until both of us, like, halfway through the show, we were like, holy shit, there is legitimately no Hogan on the show.
Yeah.
And we do know the contentiousness that happens at Havoc, like, backstage before the show.
Yeah.
Like, that's all real. Like, whatever about having three workers involved with Bischoff, Hogan, and Russo. We do know that Russo wanted that man beaten clean.
Yeah.
And for him to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know that Terry pulled that doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah.
And it's like, we are literally 6 days before the pay-per-view and the number one contender is not on the show.
Yeah. And he's not on Thunder either, but that is a taped Thunder.
But one talking point I want to bring up is that watching this show and watching the past couple of weeks of Thunder, to me, it is so blatantly obvious that the biggest star in this company is Bill Goldberg.
They're going to say it's Vince Russo.
It's like...
But, yes.
Like, you said at the start of the show, and I didn't correct you on it because I wanted to come back to it. If you wanted to argue that Sid versus Goldberg is the top feud in this company, you said you wouldn't fight anybody.
Yeah.
I think it's inarguable that Sid versus Goldberg is the top feud in this company.
Yeah.
Every Nitro and Thunder has been anchored by Sid and Goldberg.
True. Yeah.
And like, again, everyone points to Starrcade 98 and the waning of Goldberg's star, and they killed him and they killed the company, and again, all valid arguments. But I will die on the hill that they could have went back to Goldberg in summer 99 and reinvigorated things.
Yeah.
Because he is still, this is October, he is still getting those fucking reactions. And I know the crowds are diminishing and they're not as big as they were. Yeah. But like 3.3 rating is nothing to fucking sniff at.
We are talking the story of 1999, as we've said many times, is where we can see blatant opportunities where they could have turned left and started. They may not have gotten back ahead of WWF, but they could have turned this shit around and started making some money.
But isn't it funny that in 2024 we finally have And it's slow. It's coming slowly. But a lot of the more prominent and intelligent voices in wrestling are now starting to like pass on the knowledge that it's okay to be number 2 when number 1 is so far and away ahead of you. It's okay to be number 2.
Because in many ways, like, yes, trying to take out Vince made WCW successful for so long, like for the period they were. But by the same token, obsession with trying to beat Vince is what pulled this company apart.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'll use the various obvious examples. Burger King was right next to McDonald's at one point for popularity.
Mm-hmm.
They're still in existence now.
Yeah.
They're not anywhere close. But, you know, that's okay. They're still $1 billion fucking enterprise.
Yeah.
There's no shame in being number 2 when you're making millions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And this is something that wrestling as a whole has literally, I think this year, started to go, maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
And if in 1999 you had somebody intelligent in this fucking company, and trust me, the man they just hired is not fucking intelligent.
No.
If somebody with fucking any kind of cop on had just sat back and went, okay, we're not number 1 anymore. We might never get back to number 1. Nobody wants to hear that, but it's, you know, that's the fact. We might never overtake these guys. These guys are on such an incredible fucking run and so far ahead of us. But when you're still drawing in 3.3 ratings and whatever millions of people it is watching weekly, and you're still seeing guys like Goldberg, guys like Sting, guys like Hart, fucking Kidman, Booker, Page, all getting these fucking huge reactions on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
You're doing okay.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't get past, well, you know, there was one big fucking contract that they couldn't fucking get past. And then you now have this fucking moron coming in that really starts putting the fucking nails in the coffin.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, Ric Flair power walking out, and he comes out to the ring, clearly being cut for time. He does his creepy oldest ride, longest line, makes local sports references that go over my head, takes his jacket off, and at that moment, the funniest sign of the night emerges from the crowd saying, "Rick, keep your clothes on." He says, in maybe the funniest thing he's ever said, his son doesn't need help or favors in this business. Yeah, okay. He calls out the filthy animals. They come out and proceed to beat the bollocks off him. Then David comes out. They beat the bollocks off him. They strip Rick. Kidman puts on his jacket. And I don't know, I want to talk about a Russoism in a second, but I just in terms of the logic of this, I don't know what else Rick thought was going to happen here.
4-on-1, 4-on-2.
Yeah. Also, given what we know about Russo and some of his prejudices, do we want to talk about how he got the Latino faction to literally mug this man?
I mean, we kind of have to, don't we?
Fucking hell.
Really uncomfortable.
Like night one.
Really
night
uncomfortable.
one. Yeah.
I mean, the commentators spell it out for you. They literally say they're mugging Ric Flair.
Yeah.
They take his watch, they take his money, they take his shoes. Like you said, Kidman takes his jacket. Yeah, you want to talk about a commentary on fucking like American fucking lifestyle. The Latino guy's mugging the rich white guy.
Yeah, because this is the white guy in the faction just takes his jacket. Mm-hmm. But specifically, the Latino men take his jewelry and his money. Yeah. Oh, that doesn't sit good with me.
No, it's not. It's really uncomfortable.
And there are maybe bookers in history where you could go, you'd give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the animals in the moment thought this was a funny thing to do. Vince Russo is not the booker I give the benefit of the doubt for in these kind of situations.
I mean, this is the guy that booked the Nation of Domination locker room angle.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy that booked the biker Las Boricuas angle. Like, he has prior. It's all there.
Yeah. And future.
Like,
the comment I just read out last week on the show.
yeah.
You know?
It's all there. Like, it's fucking... It's literally on tape. It's there for you to fucking see, and the man will deny it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fucking... It's just so annoying and horrible, and... Oh, I hate that this man is now in charge of this company.
Yeah. Package walks into the women's locker room, and Liz is stone dead with a guitar beside her.
Again,
Like,
no
just
payoff.
not moving.
No payoff.
Yeah. Yeah. This leads us into the main event, which, by the way, is the 47th segment on this show.
Sorry?
It's the 47th segment on this show. Because my bullet points, when the scene
47.
changes, I go to the next line, and I have them numbered so that I keep track of the segments. 47 segments. And there is one, I say it might be 48, because there's one thing I wrote up here that I think was 2 scenes. This is the 47th segment in 2 hours and 20 minutes if you take out all the ads.
Okay, taking out. So it's a 3-hour show. I'm fucking flabbergasted. That's
Yeah.
like you're hitting what?
In terms of actual TV time, that's like a segment, a segment every 3 minutes.
Like you're talking 13, 14 segments an hour.
Yeah.
Like that's 40, was it 42, 43 minutes per hour of TV?
Thereabouts.
Like, how can you cram that? Like, I know how he can because we've just witnessed it, but...
Yeah. No, I still don't know how he can.
Like, I sent you a message saying, like, this is ADHD TV.
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like. It's so scatterbrained and constantly shit happening.
Yeah.
That
It's...
like, I don't know what...
I did the maths.
Okay, go on.
It is one segment every 3.02 minutes.
Like, what is... Who was getting over in 3 minutes?
No wonder Gene was reading the script backstage, because fuck if I know how I'm going to keep up with this unless I have a printed script.
But, I mean, look, as we'd learn, the script's saying fuck all in this company. But, like, how is anybody supposed to get over in 3 minutes?
Yeah. Only your boy Rosie and Jamal could do that.
Anyway.
Yeah. Right, so singles match, Goldberg and Total Package. Could have done without audibly hearing Goldberg hawk up phlegm when he's walking out. He does a lot. Goldberg meets Package in the aisle and beats him up. Beats him down the aisle and around the ring. In the ring, and Lex gets a flurry in. Suplex. Goldberg pops up, hits the standing sidekick. Continues the beating. Reverses a whip and cleans Lex's clock with a clothesline. Package sidesteps a spear. Gets some stomps in on Goldberg. Running clothesline. Goldberg golds up and shoulder tackles Lex. It's a power slam. Floors him at one punch. Whip reversed again. Ref bump. Shocker. Outsiders. This is so weird. The payoff to the Outsiders bit with the NyQuil. So they we didn't even talk about... Actually, yeah, so it definitely is at least 48 segments, because we skipped over the bit where they're drinking out of the cough bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And they offer Gene, who's reading his script, some NyQuil, as they call it. And he sniffs it and he's like, whoa. And like the implication, I mean, if the booze is too strong for Gene Okerlund, then I mean that might just be fucking Puccine in there at that stage. So the payoff to the outsiders is maybe a 2-second cut to the ramp of them falling around drunk on the stage.
Yeah, I think Hall passes out on the stage.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see them again.
Nope.
They don't get involved in the match.
Or anything after the bell.
Yeah. But Sting's out. He comes out with a bat. He clobbers Goldberg. Then Brett comes out. He attacks Sting. And I like, in my head canon, they come out and gingerly step over the sleeping outsiders on the ramp. And then come down to the ring and do their bit. So Brett comes out. He attacks Sting. Breaks the bat off the post. Hits Sting with it in the ring. Sharpshooter. Package breaks it up. In the one cool spot in this match, he picks Brett up in the rack, turns around, Goldberg spears him while he has Brett in the rack, hits the jackhammer and wins.
Okay, so we know where the storylines are going and what Russo's going to do with the world title. So do you think Russo's idea was to do Brett versus Sting at Havoc? Do you think that he wanted to take Hogan out of the storyline and get the belt onto Brett at Havoc? Or maybe the next night on Nitro?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Because it would fit with Russo because he's worked with Brett before.
Maybe.
And the only reason we go the direction we're going is because of what happens at Havoc. And like they have no choice but to do the tournament. So I think it's possible that Russo was just going to substitute Brett into the title match. Maybe. I think he could have had like Brett beat Luger at the pay-per-view and then Brett comes out for the main event.
Yeah. I mean, it's as good a theory as any. I mean, I'm already trying to start the Russo era with the philosophy of I'm not going to try and understand the man's brain. There's nothing to understand. It's just a void.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad. It's bad. And this is just the start, Lee.
It is.
We have a brief reprieve on Thursday. Because on Thursday we watch a Thunder that was recorded before Russo took over. So we get to return to just a fairly bang average Thunder before we go full steam ahead into Russo.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a whole lot of Russo.
Boy, are we going full steam because not only do we have this Nitro, the Thunder, the pay-per-view, we are then doing the following Nitro, and then obviously the Thunder. So we are going full Russo.
But in between all that, I don't think we have actually said on the show what the exact plan for the next few shows is. Because that much is obvious in the timeline, because we did say that that's what we're doing. But we do have a special show that's coming on the free feed in the meantime as well. Because we did say, so our show at the movies that we do on the Patreon, where we review movies, that will always remain behind the paywall. But what we did say, in fairness to our free listeners who have been with us here, or the lifeblood of the show, of the free show here, is that we won't put anything significant to the timeline behind the paywall. And this month is no exception, because in amongst all this, so we've done Nitro 213 now, we go to Thunder 85. But before we get to Halloween Havoc, on the 22nd of October, debuting, we have Beyond the Mat. And we're going to be reviewing that on the show for free. And then we will get to Havoc. And then we will get to Nitro with the porn stars. And then it's plain sailing. It's a lot of Thunders after that then. I don't have another Thunder in the books for the rest of the year. Or another Nitro in the books for the rest of the year. You'll be pleased to know.
I guarantee we're going to get some listeners asking for Nitros between now and Starcade.
I have nothing between now and That's the Wall, Brother is our next, and that's February. Or sorry, March.
Lousy smart book.
I will say, hop in the Discord if you remember a significant bad Nitro or a significant good Nitro between now and then. Please plead your case in the Discord. We will always listen, but we have a good feel for what the significant Nitros are, and we're not going to fuck about with that.
Anyway, that's the gentle introduction to the Vince Russo era. I say gentle.
Yeah. Fucking in fifth gear, slammed straight into a wall introduction. We don't normally do the finish counter, but I thought for the first Nitro I would give us the finish counter, brought to you by Ludwig Borga. This show had 12 fucking matches. There were 4 clean finishes.
Oh, God.
There were 6 interference leading directly to a finish. There was 1 miscellaneous shenanigan and 1 complete non-finish being the opener.
1 promo interruption.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hey.
Well, folks, it's here. Get fucking ready. Because this is the for the people that were just like, and there were people that sympathized with us throughout 99 because it's the hardest period in this whole run to make good podcast out of, and people had great sympathy for the boring thunders we had to watch. This is the era people have been waiting for. We've been dreading watching it, but people have been so giddy for us to get to it, and this is just the start. We haven't gone hard in yet because it hasn't broken us yet. It was only 1 show. But it won't fucking take long. It won't fucking take long.
Let's get through the first pay-per-view before we fucking decide how badly we're broken.
Before we make any declarative statements, yeah. Right. Anyway, we're going to get out of here. Thanks very much for listening to another episode of Nights of Nitro. We'll be back on the free feed in 2 weeks. We'll be back at patreon.com/WCW Thunderpod next week if you want to get a little bit more in between the shows. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you all very soon. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Days of Thunder. Days of Thunder was produced by Lee Malone and edited by me, Dave Ryan. To keep up to date with the show and find all the ways to listen to us, you can follow us on Twitter at WCW Thunderpod or click the Linktree link in our Twitter bio or in the show notes. I am at the Day to Dave on Twitter and Lee is at Malone_713. Days of Thunder is a part of the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Follow the VOW network anywhere good podcasts are sold for more fine podcasts than you can shake a stick at. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.